Hello everyone, Rick here and welcome to a new Devlog video. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who played this special level that I released for 1000 subscribers. I got a lot of positive feedback and I'm just very glad that you guys took the time to play it. One of the feedbacks that I got about the level is that the enemies in the level were pretty useless. You could easily just skip the enemies or just wait for them to dash towards you and then just spam the punch attack to just destroy them. And that's because I didn't really take the time to design the enemies, so that's why last weekend I took the time to redesign completely my enemies from scratch. See, the previous version of the enemy was just one of the tiles from my ruined tile set with some eyes on it. I wanted to keep the same concept. I'd like this enemy to be easily recognizable as part of the ruined tile set. But there were some major things that I had to change in terms of the design of the enemy. So this one time I did start from the ruined tile set, but first I thought about what I wanted to do with the enemy. And there were three features that this enemy had to have in terms of design. First of all, I'd like the enemy to have some eyes, and I'd like the color of the eyes to deliver some sort of information. You as a player need to know whether the enemy has detected you or not, whether you successfully attacked the enemy, so whether the enemy has lost some HP, and I also needed to have some sort of animation instead of just freeing the enemy out of the scene. It's also very important that you realize that you can actually stand on top of the enemy and from which side you can attack. See, in the previous version you could attack the enemy from both sides, but one of the down points is that, as I said, you could easily just smash the punch attack and there was really no point of having this enemy. This one time I've decided to have the weak point of the enemy on its back, so if the enemy detects you from one side, you actually need to jump over it and attack it from the other side. If you have a look real quick here at the animations, I have a walk animation, an alert animation. I decided to change from yellow to purple so that the color change is very clear and understandable. When the enemy is damaged, all the colors turn red, so red is usually identified with damage, so you can understand easily that you actually damaged the enemy. And then I wanted to have something very dramatic with the destroy animation. It's pretty messy, I want to say, but I really like how it turned out, how the enemy just goes all over. And also something that's very important here is that I know that I want something to appear out of the enemy. In fact, once you destroy the enemy, there's going to be an energy point which appears, and also I'm thinking of having some sort of loot. So I thought of this destroy animation by taking into account the fact that at the end there would be something sort of like popping out of the enemy. If you have a look here in Godot, as you can see, I've added a health bar so that you know how much health there is left. I'm still playing with it. The problem that I have right now is that since you can actually jump on top of the enemy, it's a little bit weird that you can jump on top of its health bar. So I still need to figure out how to deliver to the player the health of the enemy, all while letting the player jump on top of the enemy. In terms of how you interact with the enemy, I have three separate collision shapes. I have the collision shape of the enemy on top of which you can jump and stand. I have a hit area which is enabled, disabled according to the different states of the enemy. And then I have the damage area, which is the one which damages the player if the player collides with it. Now, if you have a look in game, I feel that this design works way better. You can tell exactly where the weak spot is, and also you can stand on top of the enemy. And if you have a look at the death animation, you'll see that the energy pops out of the enemy. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and this is going to be very important for the next level that you'll be able to play, because we are finally getting the whole energy system in the game, and the enemies are going to play a major role because you'll need to get those energy points, and one of the first source of energy point is going to be the enemies. Talking about the energy points, I've tried playing a little bit with particles. Right now the energy sprite is spinning around its center. It's still pretty unpolished, but I feel that I'm slowly getting there where I want to get. I would love to achieve sort of like a glow effect, and I know that you can do that with shaders in Godot, but I still need to take the time to learn more about shaders and how to actually achieve a glow effect with shaders. I've also added something very important to the UI related to the energy. Right now, whenever you collect an energy point, the UI pulses so that you know that you got one, and whenever you collected the maximum energy points, the UI shakes whenever you try to get more. So you know that, okay, there are energy points available, but you cannot collect them. Because I really like to put an emphasis on energy management, on the way you actually use your energy points. So instead of being super powerful and having like an endless amount of energy points, you'll have to manage them in a more smart way. I've also added a sound effect for whenever you collect the energy point, and something that I discovered which can really make a difference in terms of sound effects. By slightly changing randomly the pitch of the sound effect, you can get a way better feel. So instead of hearing the same sound effect over and over, it's actually more appealing to hear different variations. So I'm thinking about using this pitch trick here to a lot of different sound effects to just make them more interesting. Talking about sound effects, I also added a sound effect for the energy projectile. I still need to work on the design of the projectiles, but they also have this random pitch effect, which makes the whole shooting more interesting. And that's about it for today's episode. Right now, I'm working on improving slowly on everything I got and making everything that I got pretty solid and robust. I feel that overall the platforming is okay. There's still a lot, of course, that needs to be adjusted, but if I can get the platforming right and the whole energy system right, I feel that I already have in my hand a pretty solid, interesting game to play. I would also thank you so much for 6,000 subscribers. I'm very grateful for your support, and I hope that you guys have a nice, productive day, and I'll see you in my next video.